Hi everyone, welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Failing Up. Today I'm sitting with the lovely Ethan Ding, who is the co-founder and CEO of TextQL. Today we dive into how he thinks the next $1 trillion company will be a partnership, as well as prioritizing ambition versus love, as well as a letter he wrote to people who need to figure out whether they have that secret sauce or not. Ethan is a very good friend of mine. He's also probably one of the smartest people I know, and he is quite a character. So I hope you love this episode as much as I do. Ethan, how
Hi.
art thou?
I'm good.
I'm excited to have you on here.
I'm doing okay.
Why just okay? Why not great?
No, I'm good. Weird spot for the company right now. I guess like going into a big pivot point, things going well makes me more anxious because I'm used to basically only ever failing miserably. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said earlier today, because I said, tell me about your failures. And you said, sometimes I feel like, you said all the time, you feel like you're at war and you can't celebrate and you can't relax. Sure. Why is that?
I'm sure like this, the general part of it, like everyone feels, is just like if there's a surprise, it's basically always bad because like nothing ever just like suddenly goes well, right? If you like things go well, it's probably because if you get a really good grade, you're never surprised at that, right? You like studied really, really hard. It's very rarely the case that you didn't try at all and you thought the answer questions, the test was really hard, and then you still like got a really good grade. It's the same stuff. Like customers going well is like, oh wow, we bled like nonstop till I get there. Like, sure, they said good things. That's expected. And then, if we, and so like all of it feels priced in. Whereas like, basically only ever like the only surprises seem to be like, things coming out of nowhere to punch you in the face.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's weirdly going well then? Or expectedly going well?
Expectedly going well. There's an account that we've been working on for about like 3 months now. It's like our like first big, like actually a really big account. It's about like they'll come out to a 7-figure contract, and I just expected something to blow up along the way, and that seems to be on track to get signed in the next 2 weeks, and so probably changes the dynamic. It makes the difference between us having a very, very like hot fundraise coming up versus like a much more like middle of the line one.
So it seems like success seems to make you more anxious than it does calm you down.
Oh yeah.
It's like the concept of the Michelin star. When you get to 3 Michelin stars,
Sure.
there are certain chefs that don't want to get to the 3.
Yeah.
Exactly, because that's the peak.
No more
that's
fourth,
the peak.
Fourth
you
star.
can't get any better than that. So people sometimes don't even want to get the 3-star. They want to stick to the 1-star or the 2-star, because then you reach 3. You have to always maintain that standard.
Something about you want to be like second place on like everything, so that you always like you're never at the front of the pack. It's like if you're like playing Mario Kart, like they throw the thing that like the blue shell.
The blue shell. You never want to be in front to get the blue shell. So speaking of failures and such, you got fired, right, from your last job?
Yep.
What made you decide to go to TextQL after that?
I think I've like always wanted to be a founder. Going through, I was like the super edgy like kid who like studied a lot of history and was like, oh, like I'm gonna be like when I was like 15, I was like I'm gonna be the guy who's like crying at the foot of the statue of like Napoleon, crying, or the painting, like crying at the foot of the statue of Caesar, crying at the foot of the statue of like Alexander the Great.
Why crying?
Because it's like the thing you're thinking is like, oh, like when they were my age, they had like dominated so much more, right? Like Alexander, I think like conquered like most of his empire at like 23 or something. Caesar,
what are we doing here?
Yeah, exactly. And so that like obviously trickles into most of my day-to-day behavior. After getting fired, I went for a walk in Central Park with my my then girlfriend, who like kind of told me I don't want to. Well, the funnier way to say it is she told me if I don't start a company, she's gonna break up with me. But the much more the calibrated reasoning,
was that valid or
yeah,
what?
Probably.
Why? Why is
I'm
that
a guy
valid?
who like talks constantly about how like, oh, I'm gonna do this stuff or change the world. I'm gonna do this stuff. I'm like waiting for a trigger, looking for an excuse. This is the perfect excuse to like do it.
So she doesn't break up with you.
So
you started the company so she wouldn't break up with you.
Well, that's a funnier way to put it. I started a company because I have a massive ego and I've always wanted to like start a company, and like I feel like I have responsibility to, the something make the world a better place or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so continue.
About the starting the company part, or
Yeah.
I wanted to. So I'm in a Discord with a bunch of like all like young-ish, like Gen Z-ish people who, came out of this program like called Gen Z Mafia. There's like a Discord of like, we're going to break in SF or something. And it's a group of like about 20-ish, 30-ish people at the time. And basically everyone's an engineer. They're all like, some of them are VCs, some of them are founders right now. There was a guy who said, Mark, he's my co-founder now, but at the time he was like, oh, like I have the risk appetite to start a company. And I was after 4 years at Facebook. And I was like, oh, that's one of the engineering dudes. I think he's the guy that I think he's the smartest one. I should like message him something. And so my first message to him ever was I just like read some like Sequoia like AI landscape like article thing. And there was a section called like text to SQL. And I was thinking to myself, oh, I write a lot of SQL at my last job. That's a great story to like raise on or something. And so I messaged him. It was like text to SQL BIAI ? That was the first, like I've like gone back in time. I'd never spoken to Mark before. I did not know what he looked like. I didn't know how tall he was. I'd never seen him on camera even, right? We would like just exchanged barely a handful of like messages. And he was like, what is BI? That was his first message back. And we were like, all right, let's but after talking for a bit, I think we were familiar with each other's reputations enough that we were like, let's like, try it for 2 weeks and do like a work trial to like explore the space, like see what like working together could look like. And that kind of like 2-week trial to see if we can be co-founder dating thing.
What made you decide that he was the love of your life, founder wise?
Mark is the simple answer that ended up in itself is probably enough. Mark is like he's not like one of the best engineers I've ever met. He's like the best engineer I've ever met. And he is like, he stands head and shoulders above basically every other engineer. Like when they talk, there's like one of the guys on our team, Spencer, he put it best. He was like, oh, like Mark gives me like a massive like superior human feeling. He was like an NC, or he was like a state level like tennis player, road crew at his college, like goes to church every day, like already married at 27, right? He got married like last year. We all like, went as a company to celebrate. He carries the entire team on like the engineering side, and also like carries like half of our deployments on like the sales and talking to go to customer side. And he's just like, across like every single axis, like incredibly grounded. He's like very honest, like never basically ever lie. He'll also like never make small talk. But yeah, it's just, I mean, like ultimately it's like really, 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 really smart. And also a really, really high integrity person.
Would you say you're the same way?
I'm probably maybe like half a standard deviation less smart than Marcus. I think I have a much higher clock speed, which is just like the number of things I can like juggle in my head at the same time, in terms of like managing like all of the like different threads. Like our entire engineering team, our entire company is basically an engineering team, me and like a sales guy. And so like basically we joke that I'm head of HR, but I'm also the head of like basically all other things. And that's something I'm, I guess, fairly good at. Integrity, I think, is something that the two of us are basically on the same wavelength on.
And which is high integrity?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And what would you say are some of the different problems that you guys have run into that other founders run into?
Other founders run into? I don't think I appreciated when I started the company how much everyone seems like, almost everyone who started a company at the same time as me, around the same age, like has like shut down like now. It's almost like never in my mind I was like, oh, like if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank, there's no way you're gonna like fail. But it's almost always like a will thing, like the will to move on, like the like communication breakdowns, the like small erosion of trust over time, right? If like after a week you're at 99% trust, that doesn't feel like much, but next week it's gonna be 98%, and like it only slopes downwards.
Well, why does that trust go down to begin with?
Small things. I think like you're never like on the same page, and like there's some amount of like pre-existing trust. Like Mark and I, when we first, there were like 3 weeks. First or 1 month or so, he was like, we need to talk to customers. I'm not going to write a single line of code until we talk to customers, until we validated the idea, until we have like all this like user feedback. And I was like, because I had never seen him write code or something, there was a point where I was like, do you like not know how to program or something? And like looking back is the most like absurd thing I could possibly say. But it's like stuff like that. I'm like a super conversational person. And Mark has like essentially an infinite like grounded worldview. So he's like not concerned about like, I guess, engaging with like any confrontational questions I ask ever.
Would you guys say you guys are yin and yang kind of?
We have very strongly complementary, like we spike on very complementary things.
Okay.
But also like on communication, we are kind of in lockstep basically at all times.
I literally feel like it's like a marriage.
We don't
when
make
you
that
have a
joke
breakdown
very
in communication.
much.
When you have a breakdown in communication, it all falls apart.
Sure.
Communication is super important, and transparency and honesty, trust. They're not cheating on you, all that stuff. I don't know what that is in founder form, but
it's probably like trying to oust each other or something.
Exactly.
I think like when we first started, like we were like 5149. Like, and I was like, there's like a visa thing around like wanting to make sure that like the person who like owned the majority was like a U.S. citizen. Right. But there's also elements of I am like very like volatile as a person. I'll like pick up. I'll like pick up stuff very quickly.
Crazy, but true.
All of them are good ideas. And like Mark is like a much more like measured, measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the co-founders, I mean, there's always the dreamer, like the we can do everything. And then there's the guy who's like, or the guy or the girl who's like, okay, here's what's actually realistically possible. And here's what we're actually going to do. You're like, okay.
Yeah. I don't know if I like the idea of being the dreamer. That makes me feel.
No,
I like being pessimistic. I like my self-image is of like a highly pessimistic, and like grizzled, like dried up like person. Which is like I understand the irony there if you like know me even a little bit.
But you still. Unfortunately, no kidding. No, but you still. I think you have a way of. You got to be delusional, you know what I mean? To be in the position that you're in, you have to be at least a little bit delusional. If you're not, you wouldn't do it. Does that make sense? Because most people would find something like this impossible.
I understand the reason. Yeah, sure. I'm a super disagreeable person. My instinct is to process like, I understand that most people think it is like delusional. I think like I have a very measured like calculation of like the probability of like every single of our ability to achieve each milestone, and like some like forecast that like resolves to like reality. And so it doesn't feel like delusion. It just seems like the next logical decision is to, keep rolling forward until we're at like $1 trillion of valuation or something. But that's
So speaking of $1 trillion valuation, you write absolutely beautifully. I've read some of your writing before, but for this interview prep, I really wanted to read some more of your pieces. You said the next $1 trillion company will be a partnership. And I'm going to read a little section of it. The best engineers are getting more leverage because of capital liquidity and general productivity trends. Higher leverage individual contributors need partnership-like exposure to be retained and build big things. These will look like partnerships for other industries with high leverage ICs, and system partners are going to destroy traditional tech firms. Tell me, first of all, what you mean by the next $1 trillion company will be a partnership.
Do you know how much, I guess, given that you just read the thing probably, do you know how much more like Buffett is worth more than like Munger? Like Berkshire Hathaway?
Yeah.
I think
well, I know. I don't know how much.
It's like a delta of like almost like 100x. And this is like number one and number two, right? Number one, number two people, like the delta between like the founder and basically the next largest number of shareholder person is usually like double, like two orders, like 100 or like 10x at least. And that's like basically the case if you look at how like YC companies or typical startups like divvy up equity between like the founders and like the first 10 employees and like the first like next like 90. And it's a model where it was nice in a world where, like joining a startup was like the cool thing back in like, the 2000s, where there wasn't like, it was like very hard to raise capital and there wasn't that much like VC money lying around. But today, if you're like from MIT or like Stanford or dropped out or have any kind of like high variance, like basically any VC is willing to throw like 400, 500K at you. Given that your upside is, you have like founder level upside, right? And founder level upside is basically like the ability to potentially realize like $1 billion of gain. And that is not, there is no, like Google's like a, 3 or something like trillion market cap company. There are 3 billionaires that have ever been made out of Google. And it's like it's Larry, Sergey, and Eric Schmidt. And ditto with like Apple, ditto with Facebook.
And it was the VCs who profited the most. Second to that, right?
I think as a concentration, maybe. I think like individual VCs don't make that much. Like they have like carry. I don't know if there've ever been like, maybe like there are some VCs who like make enough on a single like company to like clear $1 billion in like carry, but that seems also fairly rare. Especially because like VCs, like as an individual, like the majority of your thing is just management fees for like the hedge funds or the LPs.
So you were saying it's going to look like a partnership. It should look like a partnership.
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
People, if you're really good, everyone kind of knows that you can get that founder level exposure, and so they're leaving, right? Like in the past with like Amazon and stuff, you could keep top, 3, 4, 5 standard deviation intelligence and agency and like whatever people just by like not being a big corp. But today, like if you look at the pace at which people leave, the number of like X scale startups, right? The number of X like Palantir startups, the number of X like Ramp or whatever like founders, like these people all know that while they stay within the existing employee like ESOP type like agreement, where 10% of the option pool approximately or 20% is like given to an employee, like the entire employee base, even as they go into the thousands, like they can't get that exposure, so they're all like spinning off, and that means that you have maybe like 100 to 1,000 times more startups, but there's a finite amount of there's only 100 top 100 people, and now the top 100 people of like any particular age category is like spread across these like way more startups. None of these startups are able to capture nearly as much value as like the old like giants, the giga companies like Amazon, like Facebook, because in those generations like everyone just basically went to those 5. You can't, and so like if you look at the past like 15 years ish, like the largest companies are like Stripe and Airbnb, but these are $100 billion companies, right? These are tiny companies. Not tiny as in like whatever, but like they've been worth give or take $100 billion for the past like 4 years, and they're like nothing compared to like Facebook or.
And you think
Amazon.
That's because of the talent aspect?
Yeah, they're not able to like retain anyone who's very, very, very good at Airbnb. If they're still young, if they still have the drive to like start their own like line, why wouldn't they go off and start their own like thing, right? To start their next company. But also, just because you're like an S tier player doesn't mean that you're an S tier recruiter and you can recruit other S tier players, because like the same is true for your talent pool now, right? You're looking at other people and they're like, well, like why would I work with you or work for you when I could also do my own as well? And you need a different structure to give them to S tier players more like I don't want to say like communist style, but like more like distributed earnings. And when you look at like structures like Citadel, at Jane Street, at McKinsey even, or like Goldman, these are firms where if you are a partner, you can make $1 billion, right? But that's not through stock. That's through bonuses. That's through like eating what you kill, capturing like $1 billion of profit or something.
So what does that look like in a startup? Can you give me a startup that does that really well? Or sorry, not a startup, a very large company.
I'd say like Citadel probably does that really well. Citadel, like you can be like Andy Jassy is the current CEO of Amazon, right? Like been there for like 20 years. I think he's not worth $1 billion yet. It might be like 300, 400 million, which is like, the head of the commodities thing at like Citadel may have cleared, I've seen like reports that he cleared like over $1 billion like just last year. And that's not Ken Griffith, right? That's not the founder. That's just somebody who like probably brought in like in excess of $25 billion that year on like profit. And so it'll capture that. And so like the idea that you can like spin up a thing, right? You have your own P&L, you live and die by your own thing, and you will reap whatever you earn, such that like if you can produce X in value, the Y like that you receive of that is scales with X, right? Because alternatively, the current model is like if you're at Uber and you design an algorithm and like gets you like, I don't know, like 50% more profit or something, and the company like 10x's or like 5x's. As an employee, what you're getting
still
like
capped,
you're getting a promotion. Maybe you're like your stock goes up with everyone else's. Like you're not getting anything close to the amount of market cap value that you like produced for the company.
So, but you had mentioned in the piece that there are companies that are hiring previous founders to take more of that role.
There's an unscalable way to do it right now that I think like Ramp has done and Scale has done, like in response to seeing their best people leave. I mean, these are I think like the founders that are like also like on the younger side, like they're still like figuring out how do you retain such high density of talent when, I mean, nominally VCs are basically peeling off your best people, and so like they'll like I think Cohere and Avenue Eventify were like two companies that spun out of Ramp as ex-Ramp founders, first 20 employees. Both of them got reacquired back in. Their companies were basically dissolved. It was an acqui-hire, right? The VCs got like, I think exactly their standard money back. But these people, these employees, non-founders, came back into the company with what I'm guessing is like in excess of like $1 to $5 million of exposure. And these are like, these are like 20-something-year-old people, like the same age as us. And so that's probably enough to keep people. But that's not a scalable model. You can't just have like your people leave and then like the ones that are really good, you pull them back. In the process, you're like setting however many VC dollars on fire. You're setting like how many legal fees on fire. You're setting like, maybe like $1 million or so like of whatever on fire. You need like more system. Ideally, you just keep them in your company and then you find some way of like letting them set themselves apart and then like climb to the top like naturally.
So how are you structuring your business so that it follows that kind of rule or that end game?
If I had the answer for that, I would be I would like scream it to the heavens. This is a problem. One of the things is having honest conversations about, so I'm making sure that there are a bunch of things that companies do that make it impossible to undo this, right? And it's the reason that like that Ramp's like patch solution is to basically acquire them back in. One of those things is like 4-year vests, right? Anything that essentially takes your work, the labor that you do, and extends the time horizon under which you like get the reward back, like makes that harder. Because like now, like you're cool with the other alternative like comp plan, but also you kind of want to like realize the gains of like the past year that you still haven't seen yet. And so like for us, we do like 1-year vests. Everyone gets like the value of their thing within the year, and we're exploring like pretty large like one-off bonuses, especially post-A, and then especially as like scaling upwards over time. Like there's a world where we try to keep our base salaries like pretty low, and actually try to make it so that year over year you have like relatively like banking / like Citadel-esque bonuses.
Where you get like 75% bonuses.
Like potentially you should reasonably be able to see yourself make like $2 to $5 million in bonus a year. If we're like running at the right run rate to continue growing at the right pace. I've explored I've thought about like franchise models where like you just kind of like, this is your P&L, this is just your company, we just own like a stake of it or have some royalties, maybe like some version of like writing code and per unit of code with some half-life on the code. There are a couple like statistical functions you can use to figure out the value of that. Those are usually gameable metrics, and so those are pretty hard. It's like very, very hard to do, right? But for us, like these are basically open discussions, like we're all talking about it, as opposed to like, I don't know, like founders like go into a room somewhere and they'll like discuss, come back and say like, this is what you're gonna get paid now.
Because I feel like definitely, I mean, because like you said, you see it all the time. You have people who are really talented who get hired into a hot startup and they never see any of the value that they provide. They just get maybe like what, I don't know, 300, 400K and maybe equity that's not going to be realized for years.
Yeah.
And
I mean, even the equity is like not, it's just not in line with like what you're doing. If you look at the latest
0.025% or something.
Yeah. Thinking machines, like the new like Mira Murati, like new like the OpenAI CTO and like a bunch of like OpenAI people like that like left. They just started a new, like they just came out of stealth, I think yesterday or something. They're probably capitalized with in excess of like $500 billion or $500 million or something. This is like a classic example of at any scale, 6% of your employee base could probably leave and capture like 30% of the value of the entire company, because like there's an 80-20 on the contribution of like any particular like employee group. The only way you do that is with some kind of like kill what you eat type model, or like some kind of like value tied exposure.
But what do you think is the psychology? It might be super obvious, but what do you think is the psychology behind why people don't do that. Like people aren't already doing that. Because it's clearly people have built up resentment and we're seeing a lot of turnover.
Why aren't like companies and founders like restructuring their like comp programs to like
Is
reflect that?
Is it just greed?
Like in some ways, like we're just like at a point on a curve, like, you know, really far back, like not getting fired was your reward for innovation, and like really, really innovative people were just like glad to work at a place where you don't get slapped or something for speaking out. And then like, you know, over time they're like, oh, we can start a thing, and Arthur Rock's going to give me like $75,000 for like 80% of the company, and that was really good for like the semiconductor days or something. And then slowly like the number goes up as like the returns like realize and the capital like gets allocated efficiently. This is just a function of time. So I think like over time, this is why I said like the next $1 trillion company. I don't think it's possible for a company to aggregate enough talent to build $1 trillion of market cap and outcompete everyone else in the space without solving the mechanic that is causing talent to get dispersed. And so like, you know, a partnership is just really my stand-in model for like, you know, the way that McKinsey does it, the way that the Goldman does it, the way that like a hedge fund would do it. I mean, those companies are doing it because they're greedy, right? They're greedy. They want to keep their best partners, and so they have to pay them a cut of the profits. Startups aren't doing it because they haven't had this historical precedence to. And I mean, this is probably the soundbite you're looking for. But I think like most founders are just greedy, right? You put a gun to my head, or like you put a gun to the head of like any like YC or whatever, like C-stage startup founder who like 20 something, and you ask like, why are you gonna, like, you're about to hire people you think you're gonna say are really good people, right? Like sometimes like senior people or staff people, why would someone like that work for you for 1/10 or 1/100th of the equity? They'll like vaguely gesticulate about like, oh, look, if you think about the company goes to a certain size, and it's like, no, but like today, why are you gonna get that much more? And like the only answer they'll ever get to is like, I founded it. I founded it, so I deserve that much more. And it's like, you joined 0-0. They joined 6 months in, and you're about to do like 9 years of value creation together. You have 6 months more than 9 years, and you think that's 6 months is worth like 15, 20, 50, 100x. It's just like, that feels super bad. It's just greed.
Long-winded way of saying. Okay.
I need to give more concise answers.
No,
Pretend I just said that, it's just greed.
Okay.
Giga Chad.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to your next piece. It was called To Special People Pretending Not to Be. Trying to figure out if you have it. Obviously, don't ask what it is, you know, and then behave accordingly. Maybe you don't have it, but that's okay. You can live a happy life without it, a better life than one where you deluded yourself into believing you do have it. Maybe you do have it. That's cool. Live accordingly. This isn't a moral statement. This isn't a moral statement. This isn't a moral statement. 5x. Having it doesn't make you ethically superior. Talent and agency aren't uniformly distributed among the population.
Can't spell. It's almost certainly a spelling error.
Okay. I know I'm not supposed to ask what it is. What is it to you?
It's some combination of like agency, intelligence, like agency, IQ, and like maybe like a little bit of integrity. Like really, it is just like agency at IQ, and then the integrity just makes sure you're not an evil person, right?
But you make it seem like it is something special. It's like you're unique.
Yeah,
it's a specialty.
It's
your
like
secret sauce.
Yeah, it's like you're like 99.999th percentile on like IQ or or agency, right? Like you can, like, if somebody gives you any task, even if it's like, oh, like our company's gonna go under unless you like bribe the senator, and like your first question is like, oh, how much do we need? What are their family needs? And like how much Bitcoin do we have like on staff for us to like do that, right? There's like people like that, and there's like basically like top like 1,000 or something agency people in the world, and then there are like people who can who have like 5 standard deviations on me on how complex the math problems they can solve are, and those people are, there are people who have these. You're kind of taught to like pretend like you're not that smart and you're like just like everyone else in college sometimes. When like you're taking these classes and you're like destroying these like programming problems that like, you're seeing other like, people at MIT or Stanford or Berkeley like struggle with. And it's like, no, you're not just like them and just a little bit lucky, or like your parents enrolled you for a CS class. You're a different type of thing and you should act accordingly.
Do you think education or specific grades of education actively suppress people's intelligence or their it?
I don't know if you can suppress intelligence. You can make people like think that, like pretend like they're not. I think you can suppress agency by a lot. Although I guess like agency is also a function of disagreeableness, so maybe not. Certain grades, I think like college does it, high school does it more. Actually, no, it's probably, if I think back over the course of my life, it's probably been like fairly uniform throughout. College was the time when, because each time in high school when I did really well, or in middle school when I did really well, parents were like, oh, like that's because like you're going to like an American public school, and when you go to a high school with like smart people, this is going to be different. And I went to a high school with like, I don't know, some crazy percentile, and I felt the same way there. You go to Berkeley, and like this was supposed to be like the arena, like no, like this is like a top 10 or Asian parent ranking like school, and that still was like, oh, like the majority of people here just want to like work at Google or Goldman Sachs or something, and like they have no like drive or ambition or anything whatsoever. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, past some point, I gotta stop pretending like I'm just like everyone else, I guess. And when I give this rant to, there are a lot of like kids I meet working at like VC firms at like 21 or something, or sometimes like a lot of like people, especially come out of Canada, where I think Canada like drills this into you way more, where coming out of Waterloo, these are like nth percentile, like genius, like engineers, and they know it because every single problem every other person has said is really hard, they can solve in a heartbeat, and they like keep pretending like, oh, like I'm just kind of good with numbers. And it's like, no, you were made for so much more, right?
No, don't be humble.
Yeah, right. Like you're imagine if like Beethoven was like, oh, I'm just like
I'm
every other composer. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm just gonna go to school. I'm not gonna try to do like symphonies or like grind for it. If you're different, you probably feel it, and you should just lean into it and like just say it with a straight face.
But do you not think any of this is circumstantial? Doesn't there some degree of privilege here? Because I feel like to realize that you have you need to be in an environment where you can realize it. If you're in a war zone, if you're in poverty, I don't think you'll ever get to realize that.
Probably.
Well, not to say if
there's some circumstantial element to it. I don't have a strong like prescription past that. It's like, oh, like sure, you should be grateful that you didn't get blown up when you were 4 years old. I don't have like a oh, therefore all of my talent is actually not real, and I'm actually the same as everybody else, and everything's just a product of your environment. I do think that's a factor, though. It sounds like you're agreeing. But there's no like we can all like talk about like when we were like 10 or 5, but like now you are who you are today, right?
Yeah.
And like those things had an influence, but you can't change those, and you can't change those for anyone else as well. And so like where you are today, if like whatever was nature, whatever was nurture, whatever was some combination of like God or random probability, like you're like here, look at yourself in the mirror and like figure it out, right? Or you're gonna be unhappy, and like the world will be like short one Beethoven or short one Tesla or short one I don't know, like Dyson vacuum. I read the James Dyson biography recently. It was a good biography, so he's coming to mind.
What did you learn from that biography?
That financiers are horrible humans, or something. This was a guy who like really hated really hated anytime he like talked to a person who's like a banker or something, or an accountant.
Why?
They kept like screwing him over like royalties and stuff.
Okay.
He was a great like inventor. Yeah, very very angsty person despite his age. He at some point his like wife was sewing or like just barely holding the home together while he was like in the basement like constantly screaming like while he like tries to build this like new vacuum, and once he finally built it, like, and they're like burning on fumes, they're getting like sued by like multiple other vacuum cleaners companies like Hoover and stuff, who like were suing them for a patent infringement on a thing that first they told him was shit, and then like replicated it, and then like started suing him over the copyright of it, said when it took it to market first or something. Yeah, he's angsty and angry, but also I guess like understandably so, given all
genius.
Yeah,
he has it for sure.
He has it.
So you do push back on the idea that recognizing one's superiority is something to be ashamed of. So how do you draw the line, if at all, to embrace the superiority in individual excellence versus falling into the category of just being elitist or just super arrogant? Or Are you saying you shouldn't care about that?
That's like, it's not a moral statement, right? Mm-hmm. If you are Beethoven, I feel like you have some like maybe it is a little bit moral. You have some like responsibility to the world. Okay, if you're Beethoven, you have a responsibility to the world to like fully realize your talent and produce what you can produce. And it's a real it's a shame if you don't have that and you like deprive like the rest of humanity of that. But that doesn't make you better, right? It doesn't make you better than like the farmer who like, you know, carries like the stuff on his back and or her back and like takes care of the family and like does everything right and never cheats anyone and like all this stuff. Like it doesn't make you ethically better. It just raises the bar for what like good is. Like I don't know, something. I don't think like capital allocation should be like communist or anything, but like from each according to their ability to those according to their needs. I feel like ethics is like deemed that. If you are just smarter, getting the same test score doesn't make you like actually makes it worse. If you're smarter, you should get a higher test score. And like baseline is different. Yeah.
Do you think people who have it, do you think it's something that is always suppressed based on, you know, their education and the environment, or is it something that they naturally realize over time?
I don't know. You might just be like incredibly agreeable and a genius, and then just like other people tell you like, no, it's not that special, and you're like, okay, cool, and then you become like addicted to like Dungeons and Dragons or something. You become like the world's best like D&D like dungeon master, but like you never actually like reveal your talents because you never think you're special. I have no idea.
So when did you realize you had it? What was the clicking moment where you realized?
I hate self-aggrandizing. I don't have it. I'm stupid. I'm a moron. I don't know anything.
Okay, no. You're going against your own writing. You're going against your own writing. You need to realize. You need to realize.
Like, the more you say you have it, the more like the reason.
There's a reason I say like
you're
the entire
destined
blog
for
is
greatness.
The entire blog is AI generated. I didn't do any of this.
I know you're lying. Don't do that. Don't do that. No, seriously. Like, okay, you're speaking to people. There might be people in the audience who don't realize they have it.
Sure. I also think humility is really important. It's just like a
So don't tell me about you.
Sure, fine.
How can one realize they have it?
There was a point, I think, in college. There's a club I was in. We were recruiting, and someone else was recruiting. And this is like at Berkeley, right? It's like theoretically, everyone there should be smart. And like they did all the events. They put up the posters, and then they like waited, and no one showed up. And they were like, oh, wow, like, oh no, like no one showed up. What do I do? Like I checked all the boxes, I followed all the steps, right? And I was like, the job is not to check the boxes or get instructions. You're not supposed to, the job is not to follow like a job description. The job is to like get people into this club, because without that, we're all gonna like be presiding over an empty club, and like no one's gonna want to join us, or like whatever. The stakes were low, but it's like the idea of like it is not done until it's done. And then the next day I went out and I was like, and he was like, you do it. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I went out and I scraped and like ran around and like found people and I guess like without any like supplies or whatever, you got like 5 to 10 people to show up. I think it was like eight or something. And I think like that's the first inkling of like, oh, agency is super not uniformly distributed. And like my attitude towards agency is it might actually just not be a thing that I can like that some people like will ever develop. Like I'm not like nth percentile like intelligent. Like Mark is probably closer to that. I am more like if I was on some team and the whole team's about to like fall apart unless we can bribe the ref, I'd be like, listen, who's got the Bitcoin? Who's got the deets? Who's got the like? Is it going to cost us more to get blackmail information or like bribe information or whatever? Like whatever it takes, get it done. There is no excuse. If you didn't get the thing done, it's not because of X, Y, and Z reasons. It's because you didn't want it bad enough, and that's okay. You can just say that, but like say with a straight face. Don't like lie to me and say like, or like don't lie and say like, oh, it's because like this thing got in the way or that thing got in the way. It's just because you didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah, I feel like every time I ask you for advice on anything, I'm like, oh, I want to interview XYZ person. What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? What steps are you going to take? So, okay, I have to track this person down. Well, that would be hard. It's not impossible. Claire, it's not impossible.
That's what, show up outside their home, like start taking notes on which like stores they visit.
Exactly.
Make friends, find their mutuals on Facebook, add them, figure out like which of their mutuals you can like, I don't know, like offer to do the laundry for.
Yeah. That's what you literally suggested, that I offer to do someone's laundry to find someone to interview.
True. It's the Sam Altman thing, right?
And show up where they live, do whatever it takes to get it done.
Sam Altman would
End
not
up
be
in
the
prison.
CEO of OpenAI if he did not offer to pick up Elon Musk's kids from school.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Proof that it works.
Yeah.
So I guess if you could give any advice to people who feel stuck, that maybe think they might have it, but they're not sure, what's something you can do to easily discover that? And how can you adjust if you don't have it?
There's just like nothing wrong with like not having it. It's like you can live a life. You can have things you're passionate about. You can like I said, like if you're not if you don't have if you're a composer, you don't have like Mozart's talent, but you can like teach like music to like the next generation of kids, and hopefully like one of them might be might be the next Mozart or something, or I don't know who came first. But if you don't have that, it's okay. Like, and pretending to and like telling everyone I'm the next great composer when like you're like tone deaf and like you have like no sense of like what is like an A minor or something, that it just nobody that's not going to be
what about fake it until you make it? What about Delulu is the Solulu?
I don't believe in fake it till you make it. There's like a thing around like I don't think that you have to be delusional to be a founder. I don't think I'm delusional at all. I think that every single thing that I think has to go right for the company is like positive EV. Mm-hmm. And I think that like if you have a calibrated sense of probabilities, then you can you just have to figure out, is it true that I should do this, right? Is it true that the probability is high enough that it's like worth my time? If true, you should do it.
But why don't you believe in fake it until you make it?
I'm a really I don't really take on debt. I like understate everything to the greatest degree possible. I don't know. Like the other side is like how you actually want to present. You should know that you are good if you are good. You should know that you are not good if you're not good. But either way, I think like externally, you should like present in a more humble way. Because I think the world has like too much noise, and there's not enough like signal. This is like more of like a meta thing. There's also kind of like a weird like oh, look at me, Atlas or burdens or something. Like you are if you should be so good that you actually don't have to say anything and people still think you're good, or something. If you're faking it and you don't have it, like you're super like that's like the worst place to be. Like, right?
But I feel like there's so many people who fake it and they're still successful. And had they not faked it, like I feel like there could be plenty of people out there who are not intelligent and successful.
There are like very lucky. I mean, you don't have to be intelligent to be like very high agency, right? Like it's you don't have to be intelligent to come up with the blackmail thing. I think like somebody who's like willing to like call like 1,000 phone calls like in a single day and get rejected 1,000 times. These are very like they have it, like whatever it is, like right, they have it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sounds. I mean, I guess it goes back to what you were saying. It's the will to do whatever it takes.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily IQ. It's just
there's
grit,
like two
drive.
axes. Yeah. It's you're looking at the area between like IQ and agency, right? Mm-hmm.
It's good to know that you have it.
I don't have it.
Yes, you do.
It's all AI generated.
Yes, you do.
I am. This is an avatar. This whole thing. There's no camera there. This is just like you're just talking to a bot.
Okay. For the last piece, you sent me this after I went through my breakup, and you stressed me the hell out. You literally gave me a brain aneurysm because I was like, no, I want to be single for a while. I want to relax. I need to figure myself out. And you said every day that you're not out there finding your person is a day wasted. Let me read an excerpt from it. One day, you'll meet the person you're going to spend the rest of your life with. One day. So again. And you'll spend the rest of your lives together. And on that last day, you're going to be willing to do anything to get one more year with them, but it's silly that you won't be able to get another year at the end. It's by definition the end. So I read that and I wanted to kill myself, first of all. Thank you very much. But I remember you told me that, and rather than, making me feel like, oh, there's some sort of fate that's going to happen, or, divine destiny and everything, what's meant to be will be, all this stuff, like that gives the impression of such a timeline, like you gotta, press the gas a little bit. Isn't that a detrimental mentality to have, though, because it could lead to settling?
No.
No, but explain.
Sure. Yeah.
That.
It's possible that some people settle. I think that right now, there's like an optimal amount of, just go back to the probabilities. I don't think it's like delusion at all. I think it's, there's some set of people who settle, like there are false positives and false negatives. There are people who settle who shouldn't settle, and they should like keep looking. And there are people who keep looking even though they should have settled, and they would have been happier if they settled. I think right now in the current like society, like something, like maybe like historically when people were like, in abusive relationships and didn't do anything about it, like we were like way too far on like the side of like everybody like settling way too early. And I think now we are like way like too far on the other side, right? Where like there is just
there's high expectations on everyone, and it has to be because of social media.
Or Western values or something. I don't know. I don't do like politics very much, but if I had to guess, I would say that the median couple, or like even at the line or below the line, of like the bottom, Indian arranged marriages 90% like don't divorce, and then like American marriages maybe 50% divorce. Like the like 40% delta, I would say that like if I had to guess, 90% of that 40% are happier on the like arranged marriage side than on the like divorce, like people who are like grateful that they got divorced. If you hooked me up to the lie detector and was like, what is the percent? What is the optimal divorce rate, right? The optimal divorce rate roughly where like everyone's like not settling, but like people who should be settling are settling, or like settling down are settling down. I'd say it's probably close to like 13%, right? Where like, someone who's like very liberal or something might say like 60% or something, because people still settle too much. And maybe like a hyper conservative person might say like 2% or like 0%, because like marriage is sacred and you should like literally never leave or something. I think like 12 or 13 is closer to optimal. And so I think on the spectrum today, just society is like too far on the other side. That was too much talking. I just gotta say, don't you should settle or not.
What?
Or yeah, you should settle.
Are you telling me I should settle? You told me not to settle.
I'm telling you that.
What are you talking about?
The AI generated audience.
No, give me advice.
I think.
Actually, I don't want to know. You might insult me. Just shut up.
I think you should meet more people. You should always meet more people.
Yeah, that's what you have told me. Yes. T. Okay. Do you think this sense of urgency that you need to find this person, does that apply strictly to your relationships only, or does that also apply to your like relationships with friends, relationships with family?
Ooh.
Like, how do you spread yourself across all those things? Because I mean, if the end is the end, you gotta maximize.
I'm not proud of how much
everyone.
time I've spent with family over the past 2 years. I wish I spent a lot more. Yeah, I need there's like an element of like, oh, you're starting a company, it's so hard. It's like actually hard. And so like you got to do whatever. And the other side of me is like, no, if you're like real agency, if you're real substance, those are just excuses. And I would find a way to like squeeze out like a massive Series A and then find time to like fly to China. And like no matter what the risks are to like see them, because I haven't seen them in too long.
When's the last time you saw your family?
Like 5-6 years ago. Since
you haven't
before
seen
COVID.
your family in 5 years?
It was I think then COVID, and then I moved to New York, and then my passport expired, and then I like tried to renew the passport and then was stuck in Canada for like 3 months. And now I'm back, and I feel like I've like let the team down because I was stuck in Canada. And so like, across all of those things, like I don't think I can leave now until like we raise. But like that also means that now I've like basically shifted off like something. And like whenever I call the grandparents, like obviously they're like, I understand, but like I don't want them to say I understand, right? I want them to say, I understand. I don't want you to come back like at the expense of your work stuff. And like, I want to come back anyways. And that's, yeah.
So,
you asked about the friends thing.
Yeah, no, because I think the part that's interesting about this piece specifically is that you talk about how like there's such a big urgency to spend time to go out and find the person that you love. But you're building a company. Yes, you have a girlfriend.
Sure.
But you're building a company. And you have to do whatever it takes to build
I'm going
this
to be building a company for the next like 15, 20 years, right? I'm not like one of those people who's trying to like flip a company for like some profit. And so along the way, like they're only going to be more, the number of people who like depend on me for health insurance and stuff is only going to go up over time. And so like, if I ever have time to like dedicate to it, this is it. Right? Because like I also like don't think like a partner is like a burden. I feel like I can't imagine running the company while I was, I guess like single for a bit, was like the like most brutal like thing. It's just like having somebody you can like always like depend on and like always talk to is like, I don't know how you can do a good job without that. Maybe like you strike it lucky and your company just blows up like rocket ships. But like if you have to do the grind, like you need to do the grind with like support.
someone by your side. Yeah.
Maybe it's parents, but I mean, I don't have a single blood relationship on this side of the Atlantic or Pacific.
So what about the friendship aspect? Should you be going out to also meet people, a bunch of people in general, or should
it's a weird thing about
focus
friendship. I think that like me or like the general advice.
you and how you would give the general advice?
I spend so much time at the office, like I'm like friends with everyone there. Like I don't know, like weird whatever dynamics. The kind of people I probably want to make friends with over the long term that I want to like build relationships with, I'm probably expecting to meet them once I become more social. We position the company in such a way that most of our life is like separated from the rest of the community in like SF, because like I hate San Francisco, but like that means that there's less humans here. There's less social activities for tech stuff. I want to get to a place or like there's some like time appreciation of like the series whatever like people past oh god, this is the arrogant thing.
No,
it's gonna sound arrogant, therefore I don't want to say it.
Just say it.
If you expect to be one of the 50 wealthiest humans on the planet at some point in your life, the kind of friends that you're gonna have at that state, it doesn't seem like you have your OGs, but like it doesn't seem like you pick up like random friends along your 20s along the way, like that like end up like there with you, right? Or if so, it's like usually along the axes of like how you got to being in that position. Like I'm not gonna. Yeah.
You don't sound arrogant. Like it's okay. Sure. Just be honest. Sure. It's okay.
I'm not gonna like go to a bar or like meet like a person like over like poker or something and be like, oh my god, like we're gonna be like best friends, and like they work at McKinsey or some other fucking thing.
Okay, so at the end of the day though. At the end of the day,
I make friends. I like the friends I make.
No, I know.
Make a lot of friends
First of all, we became friends.
Yeah.
We became friends a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Yes.
So you do make friends. So are you saying what?
Yes,
I'm not going to be as big time as you. So
I don't even know why I said that. That was just like a me being like edgy thing as I'm trying to like do this like weird like thing. I'm trying to project forward. I like spent a lot of time making friends. I like most of the friends I've met in the past cycle. They are like all like super cool people. I think that you should like spend 20s like what do I think you should do? I generally don't think that you should go to like a bunch of like weird meetup things, which I think is like a really big common thing for a lot of people in their 20s. I think that you should like double down on like existing relationships that you have to the greatest degree possible. And you want to like maximize the number of human beings that you've spent in excess of like 250 hours with, because like past that threshold, you become like basically friends for life. And you want like those friends. You don't want like the people who are like, oh, like if I want to go clubbing, like there's like a weird
superficial aspect.
I think I was like I was over generalizing some like projected sense of when I first came to New York, like I had a lot of friends, like 20 through like the ages who like been like clubbing for a very long time, and
Marquee, woo,
yeah, is maybe worth it for a year, unrecommended past the first year.
Yeah, no, because it's I've been through that phase multiple times, and I can say. No, the clubbing phase. Well, no, because in high school and college, sure. First year I moved to New York, I was, hitting the club scene and all that stuff. But I feel like those relationships are can be fulfilling and fun in the short term, but detrimental in the long term
Because
you
went
feel
to very different clubs than I did.
alone. What clubs did you go to?
Mission.
I went to Mission.
Like once?
No, multiple times. It's the Asian capital. I love it. And I'm Asian, so
Sure.
you know what I mean. Okay. Sorry, we detracted from the point. My last question is, are you trying to say that in the relationship specifically with your girlfriend, love should be prioritized over ambition? And with everyone else, ambition should be prioritized over love?
No. I just... It just like incidentally, I like want to be in a relationship because like it gives you like a support structure for like my everyday. I wouldn't be in a relationship if it didn't make me like super happy. If it didn't make me super happy, which it does.
Your girlfriend's sick.
Yeah. I think she's sick too.
Okay, so how can people get in contact with you? This episode has been a riot. You are like all over the place.
I don't present well. I like do wobble.
Close
and,
your legs.
I realize
Close
the thing.
your legs.
If you would like to contact me at
how can people support
gov.com.
Okay. How can people support you? How can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about your company? And how can people subscribe to your newsletter? Your newsletter.
Oh no.
I'm gonna call it newsletter.
Where's the URL of my newsletter? I think it's just called Mandate at like Beehive or something.
Yeah.
I like my Twitter is the Ethan Ding. It's like spelled out.
And he also posts a lot on LinkedIn.
Okay, my LinkedIn I'm not responsible for my LinkedIn posting. I don't take ownership of the degree or okay. My last couple of posts I'm very proud of. I like basically played with some competitor products and they were like comically bad. And like so like I like posted like the full like whatever video, which I didn't realize when I was screen recording that like it also picked up the audio. And so it's just like us like screeching in laughter as like in the background. Mark is my better half, and I asked him if he thought I should delete it. And he said, no delete required. So now I think I'm gonna start using LinkedIn like Twitter, like more unhinged. We'll see if that goes well.
Okay. So how do people get in touch with you? Like
email me at ethan@textql.com or don't get in touch with me. I'm shy.
Okay. Thanks so much.